My name is Moon Petrie, and I could really use some help. So, last year around this time, I had just started revisions on a book that I call The Deathmaker's Child, and it has now been through, well, that's part of the problem. It's hard to tell how many drafts because it has been through a bunch of beta readers, some of whom took a long time being very meticulous, and that was great and all, but I was impatient, and it sometimes meant that they, by the time they got to the end, were reading a later draft than they'd had when they were at the beginning, and so that kind of complicated matters. And I finished during camp in July and a little more time after that doing some last revisions based on the last of the beta feedback that I had gotten, and also based on having had some more time to let it sit in between while I was drafting something new in April, May, and June. So at this point, it has been through a bunch of revision. It is pretty clean. I draft pretty cleanly. It's not likely to have much in the way of typos or things like that at all. I can't promise anything, but if there were more than 3 typos in the whole thing, I would be horrified. So at this point, what it needs is a few people to read it through quickly for continuity and things like whether the ending feels earned, if it's, satisfying throughout, or if all of the bits that you might want to see tied up actually get tied up at the end. So I'm looking for people who are willing and able to sit down and read it in a month or less. And it is 85,000 words approximately, which is to say about as long as Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. It is a little on the light side, I would say, for YA, which is to say there are deaths. Some I hope are quite gut-wrenching, and there's blood, but there is no torture and there's no gore. There is very little in the way of romance and definitely no sex. So that gives you an idea of sort of where it stands on those things. But I haven't said anything about the book. If you've watched this channel at all, really, I write portal fantasy. So it's in many ways a pretty traditional portal fantasy. There are dragons, there's magic, there are bad guys, and there's a battle at the end. That's not really a spoiler. I think it's clear that things lead to that. So if you liked E. Nesbitt's books when you were a kid, you might like this. It's a little more mature in tone and obviously more modern. It also has this element of, I would describe it as a prime directive. If you're not a Star Trek fan, that is the concept that it would be unethical to intervene in cultural development by, say, introducing technology to an uncontacted culture. And so that becomes a significant issue in this book. I'm happy to give you more information if you think you might be interested, are curious, but don't want to commit. Don't worry, I won't pressure you. But if you want to hear a little more about it, my email address is in the description. It's moonpetrie@gmail.com. It's real easy to remember, but it's also in the description. So you can drop me an email and I will send you a little more information about the book and about what questions I'm hoping to have answered. Until next time, I am Moon Petrie, and thank you so much for considering.